Okay, it is 5:30. We're going to go ahead and call this work study session to order with an MIA superintendent. So we're going to go ahead and move on. I don't think we're good, though. Michelle, roll call, please.
Board Member Mrs. Gunther?
Here.
Board Member Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Board Member Mr. Levy?
Here.
Board Member Ms. Jones? Here. Board Member Ms. Quist? Here. And Superintendent Mr. Knudsen?
Which he just stepped away, so he'll be right back. Possible correction and approval of past minutes? Was there any? I'll ask Mr. Knudsen when he comes back. Mr. Knudsen, was there any possible corrections or approval of past minutes that you're aware of?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any agenda item reorganization tonight?
No.
Okay. Agenda item clarifications, please.
Yes, can Ms. Myers and Ms. Erickson please approach and speak to agenda item 16.1 and 16.2?
Good evening. It's on? Doesn't sound like it's on. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Knudsen, and community, I'd like to introduce Principal Steve Miller from Santan Foothills High School to discuss agenda item 16.1. I don't think this is on. So.
Madam President, member of the board, Mr. Knudsen, I move that the governing board approve a payment of $446 to the Arizona Interscholastic Association for the addition of boys and girls swimming fees prior to the issuance of the requisition and purchase order as presented. This item is being submitted for an after-the-fact approval by the governing board. The necessary paperwork was not submitted or prepared prior to the being rendered by an employee assigned the responsibility to ensure the proper paperwork was completed.
Test.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Knudsen, 16.2 is a letter of intent that was submitted to the district for a lease agreement by Empower Physical Therapy. The board originally had approved a one-year lease agreement with the Empower Physical Therapy group, and they have come back. They have not returned that lease agreement that was for 1 year. They have come back and offered a 3-year lease agreement versus 1 year, and also had other conditions that they've outlined in this particular proposal. What we have done is we have come back and recommended that the board take action to enforce the previously approved lease agreement at this time and entertain the possible changes at a future date, since the district currently does not have the financial position to invest future capital improvements that they're requesting at this time. Is there any questions?
I have a couple, Bev. If the tenant does not get the tenant improvements, are they still bound to the lease, or does that give them the opportunity to reconsider?
With those, currently the tenant is responsible for those improvements that they were requesting in the lease proposal that they submitted. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
No?
Because as a business owner, you normally get paid tenant improvements to improve the space.
Uh-huh.
So we're saying we're basically not giving you the $15,000 for the improvements you're going to make in our space. So what are the tenant's options as far as if they don't get those tenant improvements? Can they go elsewhere and look for a different landlord that's going to give them those tenant improvements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Myers.
Mr. Jimenez and Dr. Leckie, can you please approach and speak to agenda item 16.3 and 16.4?
Madam President, members of the board, members of the community, I'm speaking to 16.3, approval of updated policies and protocols related to COVID-19. In April of 2020, the federal government enacted the Families First Corona Response Act, short FFCRA is what we call it around here. The FFCRA required certain employers, including public schools, to provide employees with paid sick leave or expanded family medical leave for specified reasons related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Those provisions ended on December 31st, 2020. On December 28th, 2020, Congress enacted a new COVID-19 stimulus package, and they no longer mandated the expanded family medical leave and sick leave. So with the expiration of FFCRA and the district's continuing efforts to support our certified and classified staff, the superintendent and the district administration recommends that the governing board authorize us to start our own program. With FFCRA expiring, we're calling our program CARS, Coronavirus Absence Relief Structure. And basically, we've kept most of the components of FFCRA in place. We modified it some. We've made it a little bit more, how should I put it? We're asking our employees to provide us support for documented cases of COVID, quarantine, isolation, those kinds of things. We were a bit lenient on the FFCRA. We're going to be a bit more stringent on our own plan. And so we're basically asking the board to approve our own structure, and we're going to call it CARS. We're asking that we retroactively begin the program effective January 1st, and we're going to get through third quarter, and we reserve the right to bring back to the board a plan at the April 13th, I believe it's April 13th board meeting, to either terminate CARS or continue into fourth quarter, depending on the conditions of the pandemic or where we are with our plan for instruction for our kids. That's our first recommendation. Our second one is, again, in keeping with helping our staff get through the pandemic, is modifying our sick leave bank and our medical leave assistance program. That's board policy GCCG. And what we're asking the board to do there is modify it during that same period so that part-time employees can take part in the sick leave bank and the family medical leave. Right now it's restricted to full-time employees, and it's also restricted to employees that have been with us they have to have been with us 1 full year before they're eligible for sick leave bank and medical leave assistance program. We're asking the board to modify that so that all of our employees can take advantage of it. So basically, that's our recommendation moving forward. And again, we'd like to get through third quarter, come back to the board in April board meeting with whether we're going to continue or terminate the program. Questions?
So does this count, so we're providing 80 hours additional, so if we had an employee already use up their 80 hours, is this starting over, or that is still included in what they previously had used?
No, we're clearing the slate for everybody.
Okay,
So if you used your 10 days for FFCRA, which you're limited to those 10 days, we're saying starting January 1st, everybody gets a clean slate. We're starting over.
previously, weren't we being refunded? We were being funded for those 80 hours. So I don't know if Bev or Denise need to answer this, but financially, where does this put us by allowing, I mean, that's a lot of employees to fund for 80 more hours of sick time and not being reimbursed by the state?
So, I asked Deb and Denise prior to presenting this evening, what's the plan? And the plan is to use whatever leftover CARES money we had from the other plans and possibly get through that way, and if not, with the new stimulus money that's coming through the community program.
Okay, so it will be done all from the stimulus.
Yes,
Um,
and we will be monitoring it as we go through and getting new reports.
Okay, so an employee calls in because they don't want to come to work because they're afraid to. So is this only going to be paid if they have to quarantine, they have a doctor's note? Those are the requirements to get paid for that?
That's correct.
Okay, so an employee then would still have to use their personal time if have
If they
available.
not provide the supporting documentation.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
A lot of districts aren't doing this for their employees. The new stimulus money will be about 4 times as much as the CARES Act we got last time, so it'll be around $6,700,000. So we feel pretty confident that if somebody has to go home on quarantine or COVID, I think that we're in the middle of an 800-year pandemic. We need to we've tried from day one to try to stay together as FUSD and take care of our people, and I want to continue to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Knudsen, staff, and community, I'll be presenting on agenda item 16 point, I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me, but it's our 16.4, thank you. This is our proposal to shift to a virtual model of instruction. So I just want to read something to the board here and then answer any questions that you have. Florence Unified School District has always prioritized in-person learning under the belief that there is no replacement for the critical work of teaching kids in a classroom. Indeed, current national research indicates that students on average may lose up to 8 months of learning this year, with students of color expected to lose up to 12 months in some circumstances.
Adam, speak up, please.
Okay, we know that online learning, when done well, can meet the needs of many students, but does not adequately replace in-person instruction, particularly for students in vulnerable populations. Relationships between students and teachers are essential to creating an effective classroom and a nurturing learning environment, and is best fostered in the physical classroom. This was the justification and the rationale for FUSD to remain in person for as long as we have, along with the intent to continue with in-person learning at the beginning of third quarter. This reflects the will of our parent community, with 80% of parents electing to send students to a brick-and-mortar school for the remainder of 2020-2021 school year, and over 700 students electing to return from online instruction at Florence Virtual Academy to their neighborhood school. The board and district administration recognized that the public health crisis continued to present an ever-present concern for the safety and well-being of many of our staff and families. In response, the individual school metrics plan was approved by the board at a special board meeting held on December 18th, 2020. This plan was designed to reflect the number of cases at each individual school and to use these numbers to determine if a shift to hybrid or online learning was appropriate. Again, the intent was to meet the needs of our students and families in which we serve, as well as provide a responsive plan to consider wider effects of community spread and impact on our staff. In the past week and a half, the district has faced an overwhelming challenge in appropriately staffing schools. Due to the high number of exposures, isolations, and quarantines, schools have been faced with staffing shortages that are beyond the district's capacity to adequately fill. Some schools have had up to 1/3 of their teachers absent on a given day, and district-wide, we are averaging less than a 50% fill rate with substitutes. Our hope
was that through a short-term effort at filling gaps using every available certified employee, the district could maintain in-person instruction long enough to see a reduction in case counts and to weather the storm enough to resume regular operation within a few weeks. This meant that everyone, from the superintendent to security guards, helped supervise classrooms in order to keep schools open. After reviewing the health data at the state, county, district, and school level, it is apparent that the level of community infection will continue to present significant staffing challenges for our schools for at least the remainder of the month of January. In response to this and concerns from our staff and families, we are recommending that the board approve a temporary shift to virtual learning until at least January 29th, with a reconsideration on January 26th to determine what model of instruction to use starting on February 1st. It still remains our firm belief that students need to return to classrooms as soon as possible, that schools are the safest place in the community during a pandemic, and that all choices made during this time are difficult and challenging. Our goals have always been to be transparent, to be honest, and to do what is best for our kids, our staff, and community. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Adam, of the amount of teachers that are calling out every day, I think the last count I had was 65 that we were down one day. I could be wrong, don't quote me on numbers. How many of them are legitimate with papers, like medical paperwork to quarantine? Do we know offhand?
I don't have that information off top, but we can certainly pull that information.
Okay. Also on here, it said the motion was going to be that we would review health metrics. What metrics will we be reviewing? I think that needs to be clear for everybody as to what we will be reconvening about on that special board meeting.
So at this point, the metrics we are going to be using are the county and the district metrics broken out by zip code, as well as information regarding individual school spread and then the number of teachers and students that are exposed and have to quarantine.
So will we be requesting a report from our teachers as to how many would not be able to return on that date if they have been exposed during this 2-week period that we're taking off, or are we just going to go off the county metrics again, back to that?
We're going to emphasize that parents and staff continue to report cases even though we're not in-person learning, so we can track those at an individual school level. That will give us an indication of how many staff members are required to quarantine due to exposure, and then we can make that determination.
I'm treating it like a break, and we didn't request that.
No,
we
we're
didn't have
going to track
report
it.
that during Christmas, so we had no knowledge of what our data would be once we returned. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we were still getting that data.
Yes, what we saw was that for the most part, we didn't see much reporting over break, but as soon as we returned, a lot of the unreported cases got reported that first day. So the parents did end up reporting to us, but it was the whole isolation and quarantine period had ended for that child by the time we found out because it was during break. So we're going to emphasize, and Ms. Ize has a communication that's ready to go out that will also request that parents continue to work with the school district so that we're having all the information necessary to make those decisions.
Okay, and then on this, when we're going back to remote learning, are teachers going to be required to teach from the classrooms?
Yes, so the expectation is that teachers would report to work as normal. We have our internet opportunity zones, which are our executive order mandated internet access sites at each of the schools. And then we'll also continue to keep our daycares open as per the executive order as well.
Okay, and in that, would they be able to bring their own children to school, or they have to leave the children at home?
So we're trying to be flexible. Our request is that those children don't come to school, use the internet opportunity zones. If there are special circumstances, we ask that they work with their administration to work through those issues.
Okay. Any other questions from the board in regards? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And that is it.
Okay, we
The
have
work
about
study.
11 minutes to the regular board meeting, so we will take a recess until then.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
motion to adopt the agenda of January 12th, 2021, work study session, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Motion was made by Mr. Johnson. I will second that. Is there any questions? Please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our next item will be election of Florence Unified District Number 1 Governing Board President. Do I have a motion?
I'll move in motion Denise Gunther as president of the board.
Do I have a second? Motion is made by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Quest. Is there any questions? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you to the board. Okay. Election of Florence Unified School District Number 1 Governing Board Vice President 2021. I make a motion that we recommend that Steve Johnson as Florence District's Number 1 Governing Board Vice President.
I second.
Motion is made by myself, second by Mr. Roger, Mr. Bede. Is there any questions? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for the opportunity to continue to be a leader here.
You're welcome, sir. The next item will be set day and time for regular board meetings in 2021 and designate the official posting place of the board agendas. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that the governing board set the day and time for regular board meetings in 2021 to be the second Tuesday of each month, beginning at 6 p.m., with the work study session beginning at 5:30 p.m., and the Florence Unified School District Administration Building as the official posting place of board agendas.
Do I have a second? Okay, motion is made by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Jones. Is there any questions? Please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Your next item will be the governing board member reports. Ooh, I'm having a hard time tonight. I'm going to ask the board if they have a problem if I went first, since we have new board members, and then we'll go start. I want to welcome everybody tonight. It's been a very rocky time. Everybody's emotions are high. We make a lot of decisions, and a lot of people don't understand them. I'm going into my 11th year on this board. In 11 years, we've had to make decisions after decisions in regards to drops in funding, which has been the major thing that has been happening. There's been a lot of things that people do not understand, but in the end, we have always come out on the better side. This district has continued to move forward. When a board member comes on, you do not make decisions based off of your personal decisions. You base it off of what is best for the district. A lot of the times, we might not agree with something, but we know it is what is best for the district, and that's the way you have to vote as a board member. I read everybody's emails that they send, and I respond to probably 95% of them. Sometimes I do just get too busy, because we do all have jobs outside of this. And so if I don't respond to you, please do not take it as I'm trying to avoid that. I do try to respond the best that I can to everybody. Posts that I've been reading, it says, you know, board members are up here not making decisions for the district, they're basing it off of money. I will tell you right now, if anything, it is to be a board member, we lose money. We are not paid to do this position. This position is because we believe in public education, and this is what we do because it's our passion. Just like you as teachers and educators and administrators and our bus drivers, you do your job because you like your job. You can't come and do it right if you don't like your job. We do this for free. So by saying that we are driven by money and those are decisions that we base everything off of is completely wrong. If it's based off of the money for the district and what we're doing to receive funding, that's a different story. You have to remember, we are elected in by taxpayers. We are responsible for our taxpayers' money. We have to ensure that we are using those funds in the proper ways. So while some might not understand why decisions are made in certain ways, it is because funding is affected, and that's the way we have to work. If we go in the red, we have a problem, and then we have failed to use our taxpayers' monies correctly. So that's another decision. I will say personally for myself, a lot of people have said, why you wouldn't make these decisions if you had to go into it every day. That is completely wrong. I have 2 children of my own that work in public education, and every day I send them into this. Every day I put myself in the position when I go to work. We understand where you're coming from. We are trying to make the decisions the best that we possibly can based off the data that we receive and moving forward in an unstable environment. There's no stability. You guys are not on an island by yourself. We are all in this whole little secluded desert waiting for some kind of direction which nobody has. When we make negative comments towards anybody, it is bullying. We teach our kids not to bully. You as teachers cannot bully the next teacher because somebody might believe differently than you. That is great. Everybody has to work differently. We all have to have their own beliefs. But if we're going to teach our kids not to bully, the same thing has to happen from the top down. So I ask everybody, step back and realize that just because you are seeing one thing, you do not understand what the other person is going through. You do not understand what they are driven by. You do not understand the reasons that are going on. If you would like to ask, come and ask, but come open-minded and be ready to listen and understand both sides of it. So with that, I will go ahead on better news. And I would like to welcome our 3 new board members. And again, they are coming up here in a time where it is very difficult to be a board member. It is very difficult to be a teacher. It's very difficult to be a bus driver or anybody in school public system right now. It is hard. So I thank you guys for your commitment for the next 4 years. Should be great to work with all of you guys. Okay, and also with great news, our own Mr. Knutson received an award just yesterday from ASA, and I would like to read a statement. Chris Knutson calmly and quietly demonstrates the leadership his district staff and community needs as the worst of this pandemic is now sweeping through rural communities. Chris demonstrated his dedication to his students by working with his governing board, his staff, and the community to allow an in-person graduation and to bring students back to school as safely as possible. Acts of courage do not always become headline events, which is why we believe he is symbolic of so many superintendents during this awful time. He courageously communicated the facts and the options to confuse, often frightened, or simply outraged stakeholders. Everyone knows speaking truth to power takes courage, but speaking truth to fear can be every bit as perilous. This crisis will end careers. This is courageous leadership, but Chris would be the first to tell you this happens every day in school districts across Arizona. Chris also spent time during the pandemic to feed barbecue to 600 hospital workers at Banner Ironwood and Banner Goldfield hospitals twice, along with hospital workers at Anthem Hospital, Florence Fire, and police in Pinal County Sheriff's Office. Chris is a bastion of courage for his community and an example to the rest of us. I have personally worked with 3 superintendents, and I am thrilled with Mr. Knutson and his administration staff and to work with them alongside this pandemic, and I thank you, Chris, for everything you've done. So I wanted to show this awesome award that Chris received. So thank you. Would you like your helmet? What do you call this?
Let's take a picture. It actually fits on my head.
Oh.
No, really, it doesn't.
It was like you
Is
could
Rita
have-
here to take a picture or no?
Are you gonna fake put it on? Or are you gonna...
No, it almost took my ear off. I had it on earlier. I had it on earlier.
I'll just take this off. Tell me when you're ready.
Go.
Hold on. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I will say, I think every administrator, everybody in this district, it is a hard time. It's a hard time. And I just want us to remain as positive as we can. This will not be, I don't see this ending until, I don't know if it'll ever end. That's what I feel like. I don't even want to give a timeline. It's just kindness. I preach it every month. It's kindness. It's kindness. Everybody goes home to somebody that has an issue that this could result in tragedy. And the fact is, even if you don't, this affects anybody, no matter what your health is. All of a sudden, you will take a healthy person, and they pass from it. You could take somebody that has the weakened immune system, and they survive it. You don't know, and the thing is, we just have to make cognate, and we have to make sure that we're doing what we have to do. We can make all the decisions up here, but if the community and the staff do not do their part, it doesn't mean anything. So I will go ahead, and we're going to have to start a new direction here, and you guys are all new, so there's no timeline. So we're gonna go ahead and start at this end, and then go ahead, Ms. Quist.
So thank you for the kind welcome. I have been in learning mode, and so I have had the opportunity to talk with district personnel and families. I have read every email that has come to me also. I echo Denise's comments about being kind to one another. Super tough time, and we will always do, what is best for our staff and for our families. And so I'm committed to that as well, and I appreciate the warm welcome, and I look forward to working for you for the next several years. So.
Good. Ms. Jones. Is it on?
Nope, turn it.
Oh, it's on. Can y'all hear her? No? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our school board meeting. Thank you, Madam President and the board, and Mr. Knudsen for the warm welcome to my first school board meeting this evening. I agree this is extremely tough time, and there is no right answer, but I do want to start off by thanking everybody for every effort that you put in, whether that's being in the classroom, whether that's doing what you need to do to make the work happen at home so that your children can be taken care of, that you're supporting your friends and families and neighbors. It takes a village to get us through everything that this pandemic is teaching us. But we will be resilient, we will work together, and we will figure out a way to get through this. I really just want to leave on a note of gratitude and to acknowledge the emails that have come into our inbox. Being someone who's very new, it's been overwhelming, which I know is an understatement for all of us, to get the messages from our teachers and from our families. But I appreciate your patience as I come on board and figure out how to navigate this and work with the learning curve that I have with this new role. So thank you so much for communicating and advocating for the needs of your students, for your fellow coworkers, and for your families. And thank you for all of the data and information from the administration, making sure that we were up to speed before this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Beatty?
Okay,
You're up.
thank you. Good evening, all, and I thank you all for coming. As a new school board member, hearing passionate people give their opinions and tell us what you're thinking and what you'd like is the key to us being successful up here. I look forward to working with the board, the schools, the teachers, and all the students and residents to safely and accurately and successfully move our children into the next phase in their life and to be successful. And that's going to take a lot, and I'm looking forward to the challenge with everything that's being thrown at us right now. So thank you all for coming again, and as everybody's kind of said, I do appreciate the emails. I've read every single one, and I will continue to do so. My phone, I think, will be on the website, and please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear everything you have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
I received something in an email, and after reviewing it, I thought it was really appropriate, and I would like to share that with this audience tonight. And it goes like this. Working parents want kids to go back to school because school closures directly impact them. Teachers don't want schools to open because COVID spreading around their school directly impacts them. National Health Service staff want a full lockdown because sick COVID patients directly impacts them. Business owners want to carry on as normal because lockdown directly impacts them. People with physical health problems want everyone to stay socially distanced because catching COVID could kill them. People with mental health problems want people to spend time with because isolation could kill them. Some can't wait for a vaccine because they believe it will bring back some normality. Some are terrified of a vaccine because they believe it could harm them. We are all going through this, but none of us are going through the same thing. Some face crippling financial challenges, others face heartbreak. We don't all have to agree with what is best because what's best for us won't be best for everyone. We don't have to understand what others are going through, but we do need to stick together and keep loving each other no matter our differences. We need to be mindful that when some things go the way we want it to, it could be terrible news to another person. We need to be kind. So I just wanted to reiterate Denise's message. I want to extremely thank you for your leadership. I've been so blessed to work beside you and continue to go through, and it's challenging and tough times, but I think we're trying to do what's best for our kids, our taxpayers, and everybody involved. And wouldn't want to be anywhere else but with you next to me.
Thank you. Mr. Knutson?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, over the last 11 months, I couldn't be prouder. That helmet over there, that's a symbol of the hard work that has gone on in the collective leadership of this district, from a grounds person all the way up to the school board. We have turned on a dime multiple times during this pandemic, and we made it through first semester with the whole second quarter with kids in school. I didn't think it was going to happen, because towards the end, one day over here, we had 17 teachers quarantined at Florence High School. I had a great day teaching PE that day. It gave me an opportunity to be around the kids, which I probably should go substitute teach once a week. Because, a lot of these decisions that are being made by adults, how many times have you turned on the news and have you heard the opinion from a kid? Part of our mission is I come second as kids come first. That's how I've tried to lead this last 11 months. I've tried to make decisions for what's best for kids and parents that want their kids online, and decisions that parents and kids that want to be in person, and also dealing with our staff. It's the fears of COVID-19, we have to acknowledge that. And I think that's been done up here with our board today. We've limped along, and Adam on Monday asked me, he said, what's the number? What's the number is it going to take before we have to say, we don't have the staff to continue to fill in? And it was yesterday. We had 60 out yesterday and 65 out today. That's the number where, all right, we gotta regroup here. So, I was in an ASA meeting yesterday, and one of the top epidemiologists in the state was there, and he said the next 2 weeks is going to be the worst that this pandemic gives us. So, I came back after that meeting, and I'm like, we need to try to shift on a dime right now again. And I know that it's unpopular or popular, regardless, of who you are and how you feel about it. But I think it's the right thing for everyone right now. And I think on the 26th, we need to come back and see, maybe the holidays and all the gatherings that took place at Christmas and New Year's, people get back into the norm, and we see the numbers going down. Quite honestly, in our schools up to this point, the positivity has been relatively low in regards to the transmission at the school, but the number of population that are having to be quarantined, for instance, at Copper Basin, the whole 7th and 8th grade, You know, we had, 210 kids and teachers at Foothills yesterday have to go on quarantine. Is that a correct number, Mr. Miller? He wasn't listening to me. He's a new principal. He's a new principal, and he was not listening to me. That will be reflected in his first evaluation. He was talking back there, I know. I know who sits in the back of the room, coaches. So, you know, I just think it's time to shift on a dime right now, and I know that it's tough. It's been tough. It's going to continue to be tough. But I hope in 10 months, I hope next week or the week after that, every teacher can get a vaccine. That's been another issue that I've been fighting every day. You know, the vaccines have been coming, but not enough of them. Once we get everyone vaccinated, we can try to get back to somewhat as normal as possible. But, you know, those are the things that I've been having conversations with the governor's office, with the board of supervisors, and everyone's doing their best. They really are. Our county health department, they have done an outstanding job for as few people that are in there and how much contact tracing that they have to do. And then on top of that, you throw the vaccines on top of them. I think they've done a good job. You know, the first shipment of vaccines was 10,000. Last week, the shipment came in, it was 3,000. They don't get any emails of when it's coming. They don't get any emails to track the shipping on them. I've expressed I want to open my gyms to mass vaccinations when that can happen because we have the parking, we have the facility space. It only makes sense that mass vaccinations take place within our schools. We even have the staff that can step up and help. So those are all the things we've been working on, and I just hope in 10 months from now we can look back with pride that we've all treated each other with kindness. You know, I like to say we're a family in FUSD. I believe that. Sometimes families argue, sometimes they have differences of opinion within a family. But hopefully in 10 months we look back and we can be proud of how everyone in this community has responded. So thank you.
Do you have a staff and student recognition?
Oh, yes. I got to go out and give out Students of the Month and Staff of the Year recognitions. This one was the greatest. Teacher of the Year at Walker Butte. One of her coworkers had resigned, and she was the Teacher of the Year, and she wanted to take all the kids that were in those two classes and teach them all. And I'm like, well, we can't do that. That would really be impeding on safe social distancing. But getting out there, taking pictures with all of our kids, the Students of the Month and staff members of the month, it was a great day because the previous day I was pretty down. So let's go ahead and show that. just the greatest when you bring these kids up to the front office. They think they're in trouble at first, right? And then you let them know that they're the student of the month. And I, of course, make them tell me why they were students of the month. And it's a great day. So
I miss it. I miss the kids. That's
Yeah,
our payment.
we need
is
to
the
get 'em back
reward of
here
the
someday.
children, so cannot wait till the day they're back for us. Okay, Michelle, calls the public. Okay, I'm going to send out some reminders. If you're coming up to speak and the person, it's a repetitive of what the other person said before you, you will be stopped. Most of you guys will come with pre-prepared speeches. You'll be asked to leave that. And that is in order to save time, plus we don't need to keep repeating what the other person said. So if you don't have anything new to add, then come up and hand your letter. And then we will go from there. At the end, Dr. Lucky has some to read that are calls to the public that were sent in to us that we will also do. A reminder to the new board members, if the item is in regards to something that is on the board agenda, you may ask questions. If it is not an agenda item, you cannot ask questions, okay? Or make any comments or anything. Okay, Ashley, you're up first tonight. See, so you don't have to worry about being repeated by somebody else.
You didn't even want to try my last name.
I'm not even trying anymore.
She totally has given up.
I did, I gave up.
Mumi.
I don't see.
Mumi.
I just like calling you Ashley, we're good.
Is this on?
I had to say it 10 times.
That's okay. My students don't, but they try to say Miss M.
Yeah.
No, that won't work. All right, it's on. Oh, geez. All right, good evening, Superintendent Knudsen, Madam President, members of the board, and members of the community. My name is Ashley Mumi, Vice President of Florence Education Association, as well as a parent in our district. I am here tonight to ask you to look at our metrics and protocols regarding sports. I know that AI has just reversed their vote from last week. However, the protocols only pertain to those playing at high school level. As a parent and a teacher, I believe, as many others do, that sports are very important to our children. However, at what cost? We have seen that sports that either have physical contact or played indoors without safety protocols are causing a wider spread in our schools as well as in our community. I'm asking that you look at this and come up with some safety measures for all of our athletes, K through 12. This would include mask wearing for all athletes and coaches, as AIA has told us to do, according to their news this morning, as well as social distancing when possible. It should not be a decision that has to be made by individual families or coaches, which is the case right now. Please help families and athletes by showing that our district wants our staff and students to be safe as possible. In turn, what we as a district choose to do may help other athletes and sports organizations that may want to participate in sports outside of school. I would really like you to think about this question. How can we set high standards for our students in the classroom when it comes to safety protocols, but once they are on the field or court, our athlete safety expectations change? If we set the standards high for all of our students, then we can continue to help flatten the curve, as well as continue to help our students and athletes achieve even more. Thank you for listening to all the voices this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Sports is not on the agenda, so we will not be able to reach out to that one. Okay, Anthony Beretta. Sorry if I butcher your names. As Ashley knows, I'm not good at saying. Okay, Beretta, see.
Italian. Thank you, Madam President, new members of the board, old members of the board, Superintendent Knudsen, best pork butt in the state.
I'm old.
He knows, he knows. I've spent 6 years of my professional life thus far dedicated to teaching at this district. I am here tonight to talk about the biggest public health crisis this world has seen in 100 years. I taught world history. I teach psych and soc now. Of course, this is COVID-19. The virus ramped up big time last fall when all the county health department metrics, which last year's board agreed to follow, all went red. The health department recommended that we go virtual. Our district decided to ignore that. District created their own metrics, ignoring the advice of virtually all health experts and chartering a course for increased exposure to COVID for staff, students, and their families. That continues through today. Last week, over 100 teachers and staff signed a letter pleading with the district to go virtual for at least 2 weeks and to return to the original health department metrics that were agreed upon. The Secretary of Education echoed as such. Both were seemingly ignored. A substantial number of teachers and students were out last week, some with COVID. Others, like me, had to self-isolate because we were exposed and needed to be tested. Others quarantined out of health concerns due to the current surge of COVID, its strongest to date, by the way. Why was there no emergency board meeting right when this happened? Why all the chaos as kids and staff kept getting sick? Look, we run a public service, not a business. We do not get to pick and choose these constituents. We must care for the health and safety of everyone in this community because we are a community, and we need to act like one. Is the school district seriously going to ignore metrics driven by scientific data regarding a deadly virus? I teach advanced placement psychology. This is embarrassing, guys. I invite everyone here tonight. Call your physicians, doctors. I had heart failure 2 years ago. I have many doctors. Talk to all of them, nurses, everybody. When I tell them about our district's decision, I had the same response. And you know what response that was? Extreme disappointment and frustration. Okay? The facts are here. Go virtual for 2 weeks. Go back to following the health department's metrics. Public health and metrics is their job, just like it's our job to provide the public a quality education as safely as possible. Most teachers and students dislike learning or teaching virtually. I'll be the first to tell you. Is that big head, this loudmouth from Chicago, does it seem like it's going to work on a tiny little computer screen? It doesn't work. It's awful. We hate it. But we must protect our students and staff in this crucial time. We must charter a path to health and safety together as a community by finally stopping the spread of COVID-19. We can only do this together. I thank you guys for your time.
If you have any letters that if you didn't get to finish, you can leave if you need to. If you have a letter. Okay, you're good. All right, thank you. Trustee Yates?
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Knudsen. Kids first. I came here today to speak on the need for our district to keep putting our kids first and to keep them in the classroom. As our district weighs the pros and cons of returning to an online learning model, it seems that the voices of those wishing to stay at home have become the loudest. I'm here to tell you that there's a strong majority of teachers, students, and families who know that the best thing they can do for their kids and our community is to stay in the classroom. As an educator and coach in the Florence Unified School District, I have found that for the most part, our leadership truly believes in the kids first mantra. And we have adopted and we must continue to place our students and our families first as we navigate the dangers of this disease. I believe that closing schools and shifting to an online learning model is a move that does nothing but shift the burden of this tough situation from our district staff onto our students and our families. Early in the pandemic, Florence Unified School District was a leader in giving families the option to go fully online with the growth and implementation of our Florence Virtual Academy. We have asked our families to weigh the risks of COVID exposure versus the benefits of a traditional in-person education, and the results are clear. A majority of families want their children in the classroom. Those that do not have twice now been given the option of going fully online, and we still sit at 80% in favor of in-person instruction. In fact, we have had 700 students leave Florence Virtual to return to our campuses over winter break. They know the numbers, they understand the risk, and have made their choice. In my mind, this is strong evidence that our kids and our families know that there is no substitute for being in class with peers, teachers, and a strong support system. So why the push now to go to a temporary online format? Time and time again, we have been told that schools are not a strong contributor to community spread. In fact, our schools are doing a great job at tracking cases and sending kids home for testing when needed. Our kids do not live in a bubble, certainly not at the junior high and high school level. Going online will not stop them from hanging out with friends, seeing their families, going to stores, working their jobs. In fact, it will increase those activities. Because as we have seen in the past, once we go online, student engagement plummets. Teachers are no greater risk for this disease than other occupations, occupations who are continuing to perform their duties every day. So why the push to stop now? Where would our community be if our grocery store workers, police, fire, utility workers, and others decided that the risk wasn't worth the product or service they provided? My argument is this: our youth are the most important commodity in our community, and we owe it to them to keep providing them with the education and the support that they need, and that is not found through a computer screen. We as adults have chosen the noble profession of educator. We have a duty to keep our schools open.
Sorry, Mr. Yates, you're out of time.
Yep.
Did you want to leave anything for us? If you had any other things to say, you can leave a
Yeah,
paper
yeah.
copy with Ms.
Excellent.
Green.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any, if you ever have any questions or comments, just make sure you ask them right after I end. So, John Woods? Why? It looks like a Z. I know you even made me do that at graduation. You're like, you better say this right. And
Don't worry, my handwriting's atrocious. I'll
yes,
be the
we need
first
to
one
set you
agree
up
with
with our writing teachers, and they'll
it. Yeah, that's exactly what I need, which is why I typed mine, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. All right.
Go ahead.
Dear Madam President, members of the school board, new and old, as well as our superintendent, Chris Knudsen. I'm here to speak to you today about the issue of following the health department metrics and why it is important for everyone involved and why this moment is the right decision to go virtual as of now. I have been teaching here at the district now for 5 years, and I put all my efforts into providing a well-rounded education for all of my students. I want more than anything to remain in person as much as the next teacher. However, when the basic things that have been promised to us by the district are not being kept, makes it hard to justify staying in person. Every day there is a sheet that we have on our doors that are to be filled out by custodial staff and ourselves to be able to make sure that everything is getting sanitized and cleaned throughout the day as well as in the evening. They are not always getting filled out, which indicates that rooms may not be getting cleaned. Also, the simple procedures that are to be followed through the refilling of spray bottles that we've been given to sanitize in between classes are not getting done and or returned as promised. And the final part that makes it hard to be able to stay in person is the fact that when we came back into in-person learning at the second quarter, we signed a document that explained how we would proceed when the health department metrics would change. So as the metrics were showed, they were going into the red for all three categories. When it comes to health areas, what changed the, okay, here, let's try that again, sorry. So as the metrics showed they were going into the red for all three areas, what happened? We ended up changing the rules. Now, as an educator, I am all for setting benchmarks, but when it comes to the health and the safety of everyone involved at a school, we need to be showing parents and students that this is what it means to be held accountable to what we agree to, especially when you have your employees sign and agree to it. Thank you for your time.
The only comment that I would like to make, and maybe it'll be a question you might want to reiterate back, we did not go back on our word. When we reopened, we said that we would reopen based on the county metrics. When we reopened, we said that we would stay open unless directed by the county to close. The county has not directed us to close at any time. If they quarantined people, we did. So in that aspect, for anybody that's going to say it, I feel that the board did not go, or the district did not go against our word. We followed what we said when we opened, so.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Okay, Rod Holmes.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Knudsen, community members. I come here tonight as a parent and an educator. I teach at Post and Butte. My wife teaches at Circle Cross, and I have 2 daughters that attend Circle Cross. First of all, I want to take a moment to publicly thank our previous board members for their service and leadership through some very difficult decisions. I'm so thankful that you have kept our schools open and we've been able to continue with athletics and other extracurriculars. Our board members and administrators at the district level and school level have been nothing short of amazing dealing with the climate, though no matter what path you choose, there's going to be a contingent of people that disagree. My hope is that the new makeup of the school board and the district administration will continue to support in-person learning. Students are absolutely safest in our schools. We have mitigation protocols that are in place that's safer than going out in many public areas. Vaccines becoming more available. And schools are going to be even safer from COVID-19. And I don't want to save, basically, our kids are going to go out and they're going to be out in the public anyways. So we're not stopping them from working more or playing sports or doing anything. Meanwhile, from a parent perspective, my 3rd and 4th grade daughters were extremely stressed out by online learning during the first quarter. They were continuing to work for hours after school hours were over. My wife and I had to stop our kids from doing this because it was affecting their mental wellness. In addition, shutting down our schools isn't going to stop my wife and I from seeking social opportunities for our children in athletic activities like tumbling. I hardly think we are alone in this aspect. Next, I believe we're essential employees, and it's our duty to conduct ourselves in that manner. I can assure you that I stand ready to show up to work every day as an essential worker, and I believe that most of my colleagues do feel this way. Now is the time for us to continue this duty. I disagree with some of the groups and the pressures they've been putting on our schools related to COVID-19. These groups act like they are representatives of the voice of all teachers, okay? But I believe that we're a silent majority of teachers that just continue to go to work and do our jobs and are willing to be there for our students in a time of need. I once taught a class of criminal law, stated a couple purposes of government: to represent the majority and to protect the rights of the minority. I believe the voice of the majority has not been heard, simply because we just keep quiet, we move forward, we do our jobs, and we do things as part of a team framework. Lastly, I just want to say, me and my family, we love this district. I'm grateful to be employed here, and I implore you to continue in-person learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, perfect timing, too. You must have practiced that one. Derek Cooley. And just a reminder, if you guys, everybody, if they can make sure that you're just keeping it to new material or, certain things, so.
Madam President, School Board, Superintendent Knudsen, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I felt a certain obligation to share my thoughts as both a parent of school-age children and a teacher myself. With limited time, I will get right to my points. I'm here to state unequivocally that in-person learning is the best of all possible learning environments for the vast majority of students. I believe it is well past time to acknowledge and accept this and structure all future decision-making around this fact. True, there is a risk to both teachers, students, and families in keeping schools open. Many of us in these three groups understand this risk and have deemed it an appropriate one to take in light of the negative consequences that shutting down the schools has shown. Because in the words of the great economist Thomas Sowell, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. I am also disappointed in a growing attitude I have observed among some colleagues that suggests, either implicitly or explicitly, that we are not essential workers and therefore can just as easily do our job from home or behind a computer than we could with face-to-face instruction. I think we should seriously consider the possible ramifications of what sending that message might mean for future community support. In an effort to pacify those who originally had concerns about returning to school, mitigation policies were put into place. Mandatory masking, online learning options for students and staff, plexiglass shields for teacher desks, increased cleaning supplies, paid sick time off, and now an available vaccine. Every available safety option has been tried. To say that we should still close in spite of following all of those, I think should raise some very uncomfortable questions for those who advocate for them. In closing, it is my hope that our schools stay open and we stay the course. And I will be there fulfilling my professional duty to provide my students with the best education I am capable of providing. Thank you.
Thank you. Dane Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President, and all the new and returning school board members, and of course, Mr. Knudsen. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name's Dane Thompson. I am a public school teacher of 27 years. I've been doing this for a long time. This is my 7th year here at the Florence District, and through this pandemic, I just want to say that I've been as proud as I've ever been to be part of a district. So I appreciate all the hard work that you guys have all done, and the leadership that Mr. Knutson has provided and all the local administrators have provided. It was wonderful this last week to see administrators, assistant superintendents, assistant principals filling in for some of my colleagues that were out on isolation and quarantine and things like that. And I was just awestruck by the amount of passion that some of the people in our district have, and I so appreciate the leadership that this board is showing and the leadership that Mr. Knutson is showing. And I don't want to repeat some of my colleagues and things like that, but I do want to pose one question for the board and something to think about before you go ahead and make your decision. I absolutely think that online learning is the best thing as a community member, as a parent of children that are in this district and a child who's graduated from this district. One of the main things that concerns us moving forward with in-person is the amount of staffing that we have, and I think that that's one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now. And I do want you to make sure that we consider the fact that many of my colleagues have self-isolated and they're isolating right now, and if we can push through this week right here, we should have many of our staff returning after their isolations and their quarantines, and we should be able to move forward, and the staffing should improve dramatically after this week because of the number of days that they have been taken off already. So I think that can kind of improve itself. Moving forward, I think that we deserve to give our students the best education that they possibly can get, and I think that there's no doubt that in-person education is absolutely the right course. So I appreciate your time. And again, I want to thank you guys all for your hard work. And I know these are impossible decisions that you have to make, but I want to wish you guys good luck. And I know you don't always hear the good things, and a lot of the emails that you get are the negative ones, but I think that we've done a great job of navigating through this situation so far. Thank you.
Melissa Rodriguez.
Struggled with what I wanted to say today, but I've been listening to many teachers. First, I'd like to say that I appreciate my administration. I appreciate all of the support that they've given to teachers. I'm not going to hold it. A lot of people have touched it and have spoken without masks on it, so that's just thank you. I've just been listening to teachers, and I think listening is important as a teacher, as just a person in general. Many teachers are battling depression, taking anxiety medication, seeing therapists, suffering from insomnia, experiencing hopelessness, and some feel forced to resign because of unacceptable working conditions. Some teachers do not feel heard or valued. Teachers are threatened by a brooding culture of an us versus them mentality. Trust is a vital part of any relationship, and teacher morale is low. I'm not speaking for all teachers, but I'm speaking of a large majority as a site representative for FEA of the concerns that are brought to me in my classroom. Deeply concerned that many teachers may not return to this district, and teachers are seen as rebellious troublemakers for simply asking questions or expressing valid concerns. We teach our students valuable skills like analyzing, reasoning, researching, and critical thinking. Teachers should not be penalized for exercising their right to think and to express valid concerns. Teachers need mental support in this district. They need psychological counseling, some of them, to be able to effectively teach during this time. It's been a great strain, and some of them have experienced different stages of grief, and that's one of my main concerns. We should not be told to just deal with it because this is what we signed up for. What we did sign up for was a promise that if the district followed the recommendations of the health metrics, that teachers were told that if COVID cases rose, that we would go back to a virtual learning model to protect students and staff. And unfortunately, that is not happening at this time. I'm just going to end, because I know that I have limited time, with a quote from one of my students. Over half of my ELA class was out today. We all had to quarantine. It's crazy. Almost all of our classes were empty. It's a mess. This is not cool. I'd just rather go online than try to figure out whether I've been exposed to COVID every day, sitting next to someone in class that I cannot social distance from.
Ms. Rodriguez, since you're here as an FEA rep, I do have a question, because you came in, you just spoke on the negative parts of the teachers that want to leave. As an FEA rep, do you have any remarks as to the teachers that would like to stay in person that are in your organization?
Many teachers at my school personally are afraid to speak out either way. I've sent out emails, I've communicated, let them speak to Jody or the rep with Leah. At the state level, many teachers are afraid of losing their jobs and being viewed as troublemakers, so a lot of them want to be viewed their thoughts as anonymous. They don't want their names used.
That's not what I was asking. I'm asking where the other side of FVA's representation is for the teachers that would like to stay in person. You're a rep and you're just here saying the one. So have you not had any feedback from teachers that would like to stay in person?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I have. Some teachers feel that COVID is a hoax, that it will pass after the election, that it's not a real concern, and they think that everything is fine, this too shall pass, basically.
Okay. I just had that question because you came as a representative, so that's why I wanted to ask you. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Amanda Osterman.
Hello, my name is Amanda Osterman and I've been teaching at Poston Butte High School since January of 2014. I began as a general English teacher and now also teach AP, as well as being a mentor teacher, yearbook advisor, senior class student council sponsor. Many students have joked throughout the years that I live at Poston, and any other year that would be fairly accurate. The way that the hardworking teachers of this district have been portrayed through this pandemic is atrocious. Our concern for our own health and safety does not in any way diminish our commitment to our students. I personally have been out due to exposure and have been using all of my paid time off to stay home to not endanger my students. However, I have been online teaching them anyway because my commitment to my student has nothing to do with my physical presence in a building. That is until today, when my students were unable to hear my instruction because they were packed into a library with nearly 100 other students because of our district's severe lack of coverage. Students sent photos with no social distancing and masks half on faces, as we can also see in the back corner of the room. They shared with me their fears that the school had become a super spreader. Some left campus altogether because they no longer felt safe. This demonstrates the dire situation we are in and why it is so imperative that we go back to following the metrics set forth by the health department so our students can safely attend class with their real teachers and actually learn instead of being physically in the building with warm body monitors. Many like to cherry pick quotes from the CDC where students are safest in school, but they fail to continue reading after that point. If they did, they would see that this is only true when the community spread is contained and mitigation measures are followed with fidelity. According to the CDC, here in Arizona, we are currently leading not just the country, but the world in COVID cases. Our hospitals are at capacity, turning away patients. Our schools are trying to adhere to mitigation measures, but they are impossible to follow with fidelity. These are children. In July, I stood at this board meeting with many other educators when we begged for mask mandates. The board voted against them because we were told that all these decisions would be made by the health department. We were told to trust the experts. Same when we begged not to go in person in October, when the board instead presented the county health metrics and promised to follow them. We were told to trust the experts. At that time, it was just one red metric that would send us virtual. Now we are in the thick of it, with COVID cases surging higher than they have ever been, because at the last minute meeting in December, we decided to disregard our health metric and health department officials. We are in school against the advice of all the experts we were told to trust. We have heard here tonight that we are essential workers, and that is true. But as any teacher can tell you, even when we are not in the building, we are absolutely working. We have also heard that the community will continue to make irresponsible choices, and that somehow justifies continuing being in the building in unsafe conditions. It is that exact irresponsible behavior that has gotten us to the point of needing virtual in the first place. As FUSD stated in their board meeting, it is time for the community to do their part to lower the numbers so that we can return back in person once it's safe. We have heard that the majority want in-person, when in fact the move back to in-person had less to do with being in the building and more to do with wanting real teachers, not software programs and warm body monitors. I ask you to please do what you asked us to do. Trust the experts, vote to keep your word, vote to follow the metrics.
I had something and I just lost it, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that. Anybody have anything? Okay, Dana Clark.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, family members. I originally came here tonight to talk about the AIA and all the sports and the concern with that. But with the switch and the reversal in the decision today, I was really excited. I'm like, yay. And I even included that parents could go to games. I was excited. And then I got a text from my son about online. Sorry, my nerves have got me.
It's okay, we won't bite, I promise.
My biggest concern is I have 4 kids in 2 different schools. Yes, Copper Basin does have 8th grade in quarantine with the 7th grade teachers, but not the 7th grade. My freshman son has an autoimmune disease, but he's in person, and that's where he likes to be. It's better than being at home. My 8-year-old is a ball of energy and does better in person. My girls are on the cheer squad at Copper Basin, and they are so excited they finally get to do sports after softball was canceled. Mr. Knutson, you said that there's 65 out, 65 teachers out. And after 2 weeks, hopefully we'll get some vaccinations, is the thought.
That's the hope.
And then we can come back. Maybe we'll get the students vaccinated. That'll be another 2 weeks, right? At best. When does it end? 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Is this a staffing problem or is it a health issue? Why 2 more weeks? We've been back for almost 2 weeks. So why would we need to do 2 more? It just seems like a lot of back and forth and so much uncertainty. No matter what, someone's gonna lose. We have the great opportunity to choose for our children to be online or to not be online and be in person. We have the opportunity to allow our children to do sports in school or find an outside rec. Either way, somebody's gonna be upset with the decision. But we need to pick a path, and we need to go with that path, because 2 more weeks
Sorry, your
can be
time's up.
forever.
If you would like to leave anything, you can, or you can email us the remainder also. But I appreciate you speaking. You can just leave it on, it's fine, it'll be okay. Mr. Lucky, that's all I have, so did you have anybody? And the board does have copies of all this stapled on yours if you would like to follow or make any notes on it or anything.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Knutson. So there were a number of teachers that couldn't be here for a variety of reasons that wanted to submit comments to be read by the board. We weren't able to read all of them tonight, so we have up to 10. However, the board has copies of all of those letters that were sent into Ms. Green. So what I'll do is I'll go through and read each of one of these up to 10 so the board can hear them read into the meeting.
But the board does have all copies, just want to state that. He'll only read 10, but the board does have other ones, so.
Yes. And before I start, I just wanted to say, I want to echo something Mr. Thompson, Coach Thompson said. You know, in times of crisis, you really get to see the character of people in districts. And one of the things that I found really inspiring is, despite the challenge of staffing at Poston Butte High School, one of the people that stepped up to go over there was Toby Haugen, principal of Florence High School. And he left his school during this time of crisis because he had a fellow colleague that needed support. And I just think that's evidence of what kind of people we have in this district. So I just wanted to make that comment. Okay, so I will read verbatim these letters, and any questions that the board have, we can try to provide follow-up as necessary. This is from a teacher to the FUSD governing board. Today I am writing to you as both an educator in the district and as a parent. I want to vocalize my concerns about current COVID-19 case data and current school board policies. As a state of Arizona continues to see climbing cases, on January 7th, Arizona has 9,900 new positive cases and 297 known deaths. While we currently see that the majority of the population, and especially young people, are only having mild to moderate symptoms, their elderly family members are not. Just this last week, my friend and fellow educator lost both his mother and his wife's father to COVID-19. He is the only member of the household not working from home and brought COVID to his home from school. Had school been virtual, it is less likely these deaths would have been avoided. Many of our staff and students face similar living arrangements. While the data shows it is likely our students will survive contracting COVID-19, the same is not true for many of their family members. Trust me when I say that, of course, educators want to be in class with their students, but we know that the safety of the community comes first. Please revise the current school board decisions on when to send students virtual or hybrid to follow Pinal County health data. We should not be in person currently and putting our community at risk. Thank you, Kayla Exley, FUSD AZ teacher. This next one is from a parent. Hi, my name is Sarah McVeigh. I have 3 kids that attend school on FUSD. The state of Arizona is in a situation of crisis. We are #1 per capita for new COVID cases, not just in the US, but in the world. We need to take swift action. I know our governor doesn't seem to want to act, so we need to. Being in person when every month another class is being quarantined. Our kids need consistency. If that is hybrid or distance learning, that's okay. Not everyone will be happy with you no matter what you do. I understand the position you're in. I ask that you put our children's and their families' health first. In-person school puts everyone at risk. Thank you for listening. Letter number 3 is from a teacher. To whom it may concern. My name is Bethany Scarlett. I am the daughter of 2 immunocompromised parents, the wife of a cancer survivor, the mother of 2 beautiful boys. I am also a first grade teacher at Magma Ranch K-8 school. In the beginning of the school year, both first and second quarter, I felt as though the district had the health and safety of its teachers, staff, students, and families at the center of their decisions. However, in light of recent decisions made by Florence Unified School District, this has changed completely. Today, January 3rd, 2021, Arizona posted over 17,000 COVID-19 cases, 17,234 to be exact. And tomorrow we are expected to return to face-to-face instruction. I now have 24 students in my first grade classroom. We are unable to socially distance appropriately. Have you been in a first grade classroom recently? First graders cannot keep their masks on for the duration of the day, even with being able to take them off to eat and to go to recess. It is a constant uphill battle that I fight minute by minute each and every day. Needing to have so many active cases on campus within 1 week in order to go hybrid is not only irresponsible and completely unsafe, but by then it's too late. So many staff and students and families will have been exposed to the virus, and then what will the district do? Vaccinations have been released in Pinal County for educators. There are limited numbers and slots available. Our clinic in Santan Valley is a walk-in basis. By 11 o'clock last Thursday morning, vaccines were already out. Their estimated day for their next shipment, January 11th, I waited 6.5 hours to get the vaccine. Those lucky enough to have gotten the first dose of the vaccine will only be 50% protected 2 weeks after they received it. To quote a fellow teacher, I'm tired of the public assuming that we should go teach in pandemic-infested environment, taking the chance that we will lose our lives so that they and their children can be satisfied. Do I love teaching? Yes. Do I love my students? Yes. Do I love my family more? Without a doubt. I am so tired of feeling ashamed about the way I feel because I serve children. Please consider the number of lives you are putting in danger by returning to in-person learning. I beg of you. We are taking students, staff, and families. They go home each and every day. Please consider this ludicrous plan to go hybrid. Make the decision to keep your staff, students, and families safe by going to virtual learning for the next 2 weeks. Bethany Scarlett, first grade teacher at Magma Ranch K-8, and then she has her emails. Okay, this next one is an email from a teacher. Hello, as a staff member and parent of FUSD students, I am writing you to request that we move to virtual learning until the school metrics set by the health department have been reduced to yellow or moderate transmission and/or until all the staff who want the COVID vaccine are able to get it. We have now been in the red zone in all 3 areas since December, early December, and I am shocked that we are still on campus with such a high rate of community spread. In Pinal County alone, we are sitting at almost 22% positivity, and that is with a delayed reporting. Please take action to keep our staff and students safe. Thank you, Jamie Hogland, MAED, Magna Ranch K-8, and Florence Virtual Academy, ESL teacher, 2nd through 4th, and that has her phone number and extension. This next one is an email from a teacher. Hello to the FUSD School Board, colleagues, community members, and Superintendent Knutson. I am concerned that there is not much transparency given when cases are reported at schools. My other concern is the lack of a district-wide policy to enforce mask wearing among students and staff. There have been concerns on how to address students who continue not to wear a mask. I am requesting that the district develop a plan to allow for more transparency when students are quarantined and put a policy in place for individuals who refuse to wear a mask. Thank you, Catherine Mullen. Letter number 6 is from a teacher. January 11th, 2021. Dear Florence Unified School District Number 1 School Board. My name is Joel Jasper, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Copper Basin K-8. Our school is under tremendous stress to adequately staff teacher and staff positions. Many are out with COVID-19, under quarantine, or out due to illness. With the lack of substitutes in the district, we have been left to cancel specials and assign paraprofessionals to cover classes. This means that all teachers at our school are not receiving a prep, and special education and other services are limited or canceled to adequately cover classes. I have not been able to run copies, prep lessons, or even go to the restroom during the day. Today, I have to go to the doctor for an infection. As a result, I want to teach our students, and until we can adequately staff our schools, we need to move to online learning. All teachers, regardless of COVID status, can teach online, and students who are in quarantine, and this is in parentheses, our entire 8th grade class, can also participate online with us. I know online learning is not ideal, but teachers are burning out and getting sick. As a teacher who works in this district, I urge the board to vote to go online until we can adequately staff schools. Sincerely, Joel Jasper. Letter number 7 is from a teacher. Florence Board of Education, January 11th, 2021, the address of the district. And then the letter starts, Dear school board members, as a teacher and parent in the Florence Unified School District, I am writing to urge you to follow the COVID-19 school benchmarks put out by the Arizona Department of Health. These are the metrics that the district agreed to go by when the decision to return to work in school was made by teachers and parents. The percent positivity rate in Pinal County is at dangerous levels. By continuing all in-person schooling, we are putting our staff and students at risk for contracting COVID-19 virus. We need to change our education model to virtual or hybrid until the State Department numbers reflect that in-person school is safe. Some students are also already needing to alternate between in-person and virtual learning because of exposure and required quarantine. My own son was quarantined twice during the 2nd quarter. This makes it difficult for teachers and students involved to make sure everyone is on a level playing field. By having all students virtual, the student or the teacher will be able to focus on just delivering teaching via that mode of instruction. Please consider moving to the Florence Unified School District out of in-person learning immediately. Respectfully, Michelle Silva Cohen, teacher at Santan Heights, parent of a senior at Santan Foothills. This next letter is, I'm not sure if it's a parent or a teacher, I'm sorry. Sarah McKinney. It's number teacher. 8, teacher. Attention school board and FUSD community. My name is Sarah McKinney, and I serve the community as a special education teacher in the Florence Unified School District. Since we were given the option to be virtual or in person, I have been nothing but excited to be safely back in the school setting with my students. I have felt safe since we've come back, and actually still do. When I go out in the community like the grocery store or Target, I feel way more at risk for bringing something home than when I go to work. The community outside of school seems to be a lot less interested in being safe. I know our community members have increased greatly over the community numbers have increased greatly over the past month, but I also expect that with the travel that it takes place in and out of Arizona, especially in the winter, I personally have students who only go to school or the park because simply school is all they have. As a teacher who works with an at-risk population, I fear a school-wide in-person closure longer than 2 weeks would have a long-term mental impact that will cause more damage. Yes, I want us all to be safe, but I also worry about the mental health of our students. Since my students returned in person in October, I see kids smiling under their masks. I see students finding ways to work together without touching each other or getting extra close. And I see them helping each other overcome incredible obstacles. I see daily why in-person education for many students is necessary. I think the board proposal for 2 weeks of virtual can help us get the community numbers back under control or back down, but we also need to be able to give the option to return after 2 weeks with a form of in-person education for those who want it. The truth is we have a large population of students in FUSD who truly only have school to look forward to attending. I know firsthand students with special needs just cannot get what they need from virtual form of learning. The social impact as well with our students and the social emotional needs really does require more than what virtual can provide. As a mom and a teacher, I see it both ways. I'm proud to be part of this FUSD community and know we can all come together so our community can provide the best learning environment possible. I ask that after 2 weeks, we have the ability to bring students back on campus in some way, even if it is a hybrid model. I know that the board and community will help us move forward in a positive way. Thank you for your time, Sarah McKinney. Okay, we have letter number 9. This is from a teacher. There is an indication at the top of the email, but I'm not going to read that as it's not noted as part of the letter. January 12th, 2021. Dear FUSD board members, Mr. Knudsen, and guests. I have been employed by the Florence Unified School District since 2007. Over the past 7 years, I have had the pleasure of providing learning opportunities and support for English language learners who attend Poston Butte High School. In addition to this, I have been providing instruction and support to all the ELL students 9 through 12 who chose to attend FEA this year. During quarter 1 of the 2021 school year, the majority of the PBHS ELL students failed 1 or more classes due to their lack of understanding on how to maneuver virtual learning. They also struggled to comprehend the expectations of their teachers as they vary. I personally have a healthy fear of COVID-19 benchmark numbers for Pinal County. My concern for my student is much greater than my fear of getting COVID. Today in my classes of ELL students whose proficiency levels are basic, emergent, or pre-emergent, I asked for their feedback on returning to virtual classes even for 2 weeks. Their responses said it all. One 10th grader said, I guess I'm going to fail all of my classes again. A young lady who is a senior and has been working extremely hard to pass all her classes and earn the credits required credits to graduate with her class said, no, Mrs. Shaper, I need to be in class so I can learn and graduate. My hope is that for ELL and ESS students, the board will consider a virtual on-site option for these students. If my students chose to be on campus to learn, they would report to my room where they would attend all their classes, their virtual classes. These students would have additional support from me as their ELL teacher. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my thoughts. Sincerely, Teresa Schaefer, ELL Coordinator, PBHS. We have last one, number 10. This is an email from a parent. Hello, I would like to give some common sense input. There have been almost 0 issues at any of our schools to warrant any return to virtual. Our kiddos are doing great. For those complaining, there is always the option of FEA at any time. I mean, come on, some school have had 0 kids need to be in school and nothing has shown it to be otherwise. That is from Jody Schaefer. Those are all the letters that were submitted. Up to 10, the board has additional letters in their packet. Any questions for me?
No, thank you, Dr. Lucky.
I have a few things to say.
Do you want to say them now or you want to save them for when we go to that?
No, I want to say that, you know, over the last 10 months, on multiple levels, I have expressed my displeasure with how some of our government officials have sent multiple mixed messages to all of us. You know, I was in a meeting with the governor and 12 other superintendents, and I asked him, I said, the only way we can be in school is for you to mandate masks. Well, you know, at the time, he and Superintendent Hoffman were working they were collaborating together. It was really a wonderful thing to see that a Republican governor and a Democratic superintendent of public instruction could work together. And here it is 10 months later, and they're no longer working together. They're pointing fingers at each other. We hear our governor the other day saying that he's going to not fund schools if the kids aren't in seats. And so as a superintendent, I get that message. I talk daily with Supervisor Goodman on the Board of Supervisors, and I ask him, I'm like, is there any way the multiple levels of government, and I know they're all doing the best that they can, just like we all are, but is there any way we cannot send so many multiple mixed messages and different directions? I mean, at the beginning, the county health department was allowed to shut a school down. One school got shut down at Santan Foothills. And after that, the county health department was no longer allowed to make the decision to shut a school down. So the frustration from a superintendent's standpoint across this state is, I'm not a healthcare worker. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a contact tracer, okay? And I know our health department they're doing the best they can. But if it were any other type of outbreak, or if we had something wrong in our concession stand, they have the authority to shut it down. And that hasn't been happening, okay? So I try to meet with the association, the Teachers Association, weekly. And they asked about a hybrid model. We came back, and administratively we met and brought it to the board, and we put a hybrid model in. And 4 weeks ago, we hear from Fauci and Director Redfield from the CDC that school is the safest place to be. So these, as individual differences that we have in here today, it's happening on multiple levels across this country. I mean, you got the director of the CDC saying the safest place for kids is in school. But then when it comes down to the county level, and I said this to Mr. Goodman, I'm like, okay, so the community spread is really bad right now, okay? But you got somebody at the top of the CDC giving conflicting information. It is completely frustrating, like it is for all of you, for every superintendent in this state, okay? You know, my own son is a senior. I don't want him at home, but that's where he's at. And I met with my team this week after yesterday's meeting, and after we've been limping along, and I made the decision to recommend to the governing board that we take this 2 weeks and go online and see what it looks like on the 26th. Now, I know we're continuing to pivot on a dime, and we've been doing it for 10 months. I hope we can all stay together and respect each other's opinions. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Motion was made by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Jones. Is there any conversation? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, new business after the fact for the Arizona Interscholastic Association Incorporated. Do I have a motion? Motion is made by Mr. Johnson. Second? Second by Ms. Quist. Is there any discussion?
I just think that occurred during the transition at that school.
I think it was a lack of communication.
Okay. Is there any other conversations, questions? Okay. Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Next one will be letter of intent, the lease agreement, Empower Physical Therapy. Do I have a motion? I'll move that the governing board to take action to enforce the previously board-approved lease agreement issued to Empower Physical Therapy effective from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by myself, second by Mr. Johnson. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Next one will be 16.3 is the approval of updated policies and protocols related to COVID-19. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the updated policies and protocols related to COVID-19 as presented.
I'll second it. Motion was made by Mr. Johnson, second by myself. Is there any discussion? As long as we bring that back for reevaluation to making sure that we are not overstepping our money that we have from COVID, I would like to not take us into our regular funds.
We won't.
Okay.
I want to say it was 180,000 of CARES Act money.
Yeah, I'm just taking into consideration what we
Is
might
that
have
right,
to use
Bev?
moving forward for COVID.
200?
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Next one will be 16.4, the instruction model change. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that the board approve a temporary change to district-wide virtual learning model from Thursday, January 14th through Friday, January 29th.
Is there a second? Motion is made by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Jones. Is there any discussion? I would like to say some things. I do have a problem with the fact that it says to review health metrics at that time. We were out of school for 3 weeks for Christmas break. The county metrics did not change. Closing schools did not bring those down. I don't feel that moving forward after 2 weeks of following those guidelines is going to bring us down into the yellow, into the green again. I mean, I think we're still gonna be in the red due to the fact that the county is so widespread and it's not zeroing in on our area. I support what we went to before with saying we opened originally because we had no data. We have data now to show that the spread within the schools is very low. If our teachers would accurately report and to not call in because they are self-isolating, I think that's what the issue that we have right now is too many teachers are choosing to self-isolate, and that's what's causing us a problem. I do agree that we have a staffing problem at this time and we cannot adequately serve our children. But returning in 2 weeks is very important, and at that time, everybody that's self-isolating or that is being put into quarantine at this time should be able to come back. And if everybody follows the right guidelines, our staff should be safe. We can't guarantee what the community is doing. We can't force them to quarantine. So I do have a problem with using those metrics when we return because our data has shown that this is where we're at. As long as our staff is willing to come back and we have it to adequately supply, I think that we need to look at that how we're going to return and the metrics that we're going to use. So will that change when we like if we decide at January 26th when we reconvene for our special board meeting, or what day is it that we're reconvening? We're going to January 26th. Will that be a discussion at that time, or are we still only going to follow those guidelines?
I'll make a recommendation.
Okay.
So, right now, the Cardinal Stadium is a place where a lot of our people are signing up to go get the vaccine.
Yes.
The
24
sooner we
hours a
can
day.
get everyone vaccinated, the sooner that, we can get this all behind us.
Yeah, I do think though that 2 weeks, even if our teachers could go get whichever teachers want to be vaccinated, if they can go get the first vaccine, that doesn't guarantee they're not going to get it in 2 more weeks. They still have to go get the second vaccine, and then we still have to wait another 2 weeks after that. My concern is the delays that we are putting on our children further and further. And we have shown that we were able to return to school and our metrics stayed low. Our metrics. Our spread within our schools was very low. Was it 0 where we would want it to be? Absolutely not. I have those concerns. I mean, our children are so important, and the amount of what we're putting on them to take them out it tears me up. I know what we have to do. I understand that the teachers are calling in. I understand that we have a lot in quarantine at this time. I just fear of moving forward with a 2-week shutdown, and then it's going to become 4 weeks, then it's going to become 6 weeks, and all of a sudden we're at spring break, and everybody's going to go out and party at spring break again, and then everyone's going to be fearful to come back again. I'm just trying to follow the lines that have been happening, and we need to put our kids first. And that's just my fear of coming back. I
You know, the
understand
meeting
where we're at.
yesterday at ASA with the top epidemiologist, him saying the next 2 weeks
We'll be
are
all
going to
right.
be the worst 2 weeks that this pandemic is going to give us. I came back and I was just like, you know what? It's time to put the stops on as, you know, if that's true, we had that many kids at Posted Butte. If that's indeed true, that's not okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was
So
trying
that's
to
why
say.
I recommend that we
Yeah.
just put the stop on for 2 weeks and then let's reassess.
And I just want to put it out there, teachers, you have to accurately report. Parents, you have to accurately report while we're out. If you are choosing not to come back because that's what you would like to do, it needs to state that. It doesn't, please be clear as to if you are quarantining due to an exposure or a positive test result, it has to be accurately reported. If you do not accurately report, just like if the county does not accurately report to us, which they are not because they are running weeks behind and we're weeks behind on data, we cannot make the decisions moving forward for the best of everybody. So I just really beg the teachers, please accurately report. The other item in this, when we're going to this, is this going to maintain sports? Because I know that's gonna have to be on a future agenda and probably discussed at our next board meeting because of the AIA changes.
We will follow what the AIA guidelines are.
And that will carry down into our middle school
Yes.
sports also?
Yes.
Okay.
If they would have kept it shut down, we would have shut down.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, please vote. Roger, is yours? Okay, there it goes. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, items for future agenda, so we can even say that would be for the special, so just make sure that we have just that, right? Anything else from anybody that would like on a future agenda? No? Okay.
What did she want?
Okay, this will be for the next regular board meeting. Will be held on Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 in the Florence Unified School District Administration Building Auditorium, 1000 South Main Street, Florence, Arizona. The work study session will begin at 5:30 p.m. Just like as the motion just carried before, we will be having a special board meeting on January 26th, and the time and place will be to be determined, but I would assume it would be here, and then we will make sure that that is posted for everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, do I have a second? Motion was made by Ms. Quiz, second by Ms. Jones. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
I don't know.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Everybody have a great night.